My phone buzzed during the eulogy, and when I glanced down at the screen, I saw 6 words that made my hair stand on end. I'm still alive. Don't trust anyone. The message came from my wife's number, the same wife whose body was supposedly lying in the mahogany casket 15 feet in front of me. I sat frozen in the front pew of St. Mary's Church while Father Bennett droned on about eternal rest and God's mercy. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Around me, 200 mourners dabbed at their eyes with tissues, grieving for Sarah Bennett, beloved wife, devoted daughter, cherished friend, the woman they all thought was dead. But that text message said otherwise. I read it again, my heart hammering against my ribs. The message had been sent 30 seconds ago. I looked up at the closed casket, its polished surface reflecting the afternoon light streaming through the stained glass windows. Inside that box was supposed to be my wife of 12 years, the woman who died 4 days ago in a car accident on Highway 41. Or had she? My mind raced through the impossible logistics. The police had called me at 3 in the morning on Tuesday. Detective Harrison had used that flat, practiced tone they teach cops for passing notifications. Mr. Bennett, there's been an accident. Your wife's vehicle went off the road near mile marker 47. I'm very sorry, but she didn't survive. I'd identified her body at the morgue the next morning, or I thought I had. The sheet had been pulled back just enough to show her face. Her eyes were closed, features peaceful. Blonde hair matted with dried red liquid, a purple bruise along her left temple. The medical examiner had explained that the cause of passing was blunt force trauma. Her head had struck the driver's side window when the car rolled. I'd nodded, signed papers, made arrangements. Went through all the motions of a grieving husband. And now, 4 days later, I was getting text messages from a dead woman. Another buzz. I looked down. Check the guest bedroom closet, behind the winter coats. You'll understand everything. My throat went dry. The guest bedroom was in our house. Our house. Which meant either someone was in our house right now, or Sarah had set this up before she died, or before she faked her passing. I stood abruptly, causing heads to turn. My mother-in-law, Patricia, shot me a concerned look from across the aisle. I mumbled something about needing air and stumbled toward the exit, my phone clutched in my sweaty palm. Outside, the September sun was too bright, too cheerful for a funeral. I stood on the church steps, breathing hard, trying to make sense of what was happening. People passing on the sidewalk gave me sympathetic glances, the grieving widower getting some air before the burial. If they only knew, I called Sarah's number. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. Her voice, bright and familiar, saying, "You've reached Sarah Bennett. Leave a message and I'll call you back." I hung up and immediately called Detective Harrison. "Bennett," he answered on the second ring. "How are you holding up?" "I need to ask you something, about the body, about my wife." "Of course. What is it?" "How certain are you that it was her? That the body in the morgue was actually Sarah?" A pause. "You identified her yourself, Tom. Remember?" "I know, but I only saw her face." "Did you do a full identification? Fingerprints, dental records?" Another pause, longer this time. "Tom, this is a difficult day. It's normal to have doubts, to want to believe. Just answer the question. Did you confirm it was her through forensic means, or did you just take my word for it?" "We took your word for it. You're her husband. You know her better than anyone. And given the circumstances, the car was registered to her, her purse was in the vehicle, the body matched her general description, we had no reason to doubt. No fingerprints, no dental records? Tom, in a straightforward accident case with positive family identification, we don't typically go through extensive forensic analysis. The body was badly injured. We didn't want to put you through more trauma than necessary." I closed my eyes. "So it's possible that wasn't her." "Tom, what's going on? Why are you asking these questions?" I couldn't tell him about the text messages. Not yet, not until I knew what I was dealing with. "Just needed to know for certain," I said. "Thank you, Detective." I hung up before he could ask more questions. My phone buzzed again. "Come home, alone, don't tell anyone. If you want the truth, you'll do exactly what I say." I looked back at the church. Through the tall doors, I could see the crowd standing for a hymn. In 20 minutes, they'd be loading the casket into the hearse. They'd drive to Oak Hill Cemetery. They'd lower an empty box into the ground while everyone cried and shared memories of a woman who might not even be dead. I walked to my car, got in, and drove home. The house was exactly as I'd left it 2 hours ago, a tidy colonial in a quiet neighborhood with a for sale sign on the lawn that I'd put up 3 months ago. Sarah and I had been planning to move to something smaller now that it was just the 2 of us. Our daughter Emily had left for college a year ago, and the 4-bedroom house suddenly felt too big, too empty. Now it felt like a trap. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, studying the windows for any sign of movement. Nothing. The house looked abandoned, which in a way it was. I'd barely been here since the accident, staying instead at my mother's place downtown. I got out and approached the front door slowly, keys ready. The lock turned smoothly. Inside, everything was dark and still. Mail piled up on the entry table, sympathy cards mostly, their pastel envelopes stacked like accusations. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed in the empty space. No answer. I walked through the living room, checking corners, listening for any sound. Nothing. In the kitchen, dishes sat in the drainer where I'd left them. Sarah's coffee mug, the one that said "World's Best Mom," sat on the counter with a dark ring of dried coffee at the bottom. The guest bedroom was upstairs, second door on the right. I climbed the stairs slowly, my hand trailing on the banister. Each step creaked under my weight. At the top, I paused, listening. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I pushed open the guest bedroom door. The room was exactly as we'd left it. Queen bed with a blue comforter, dresser against one wall, closet door closed. I crossed to the closet and opened it. Winter coats hung in a neat row, their heavy fabrics musty from months in storage. I pushed them aside. Behind the coats, taped to the back wall of the closet, was a manila envelope. My hands trembled as I pulled it free. The envelope was bulky, stuffed with something. I carried it to the bed and dumped out the contents. Papers, dozens of them. I picked up the first one, a bank statement from an account I didn't recognize. Sarah's name was on it, but the account number was unfamiliar. The balance made me blink. $847,000. I grabbed another paper, another bank statement from a different institution, same name, another massive balance, $623,000. A third statement, a fourth, a fifth. Each one showed accounts I'd never heard of, containing amounts that added up to nearly $3 million. $3 million that my wife had hidden from me. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah's number. "Now you understand why I had to disappear. Keep looking. There's more." I dumped out the rest of the envelope. Among the bank statements were photographs, dozens of them, printed on regular copy paper. I picked up the first one. It showed Sarah having lunch with a man I didn't recognize. He was maybe 50, gray hair, expensive suit. They were sitting at an outdoor cafe, heads bent close together, his hand on her arm. The next photo showed them again, this time getting into a car together. And another, walking into what looked like a hotel. And another, this one clearly taken through a window, showing them in what appeared to be a hotel room, embracing. My wife had been having an affair. I sat down hard on the bed, photos scattered around me. My mind was reeling, trying to process everything. The hidden money, the affair, the faked passing. None of it made sense. Another buzz. "The man in the photos is named Richard Blackwood. He's a private wealth manager. He promised me a new life. Instead, he tried to kill me." I stared at the message, then at the photos again. Richard Blackwood. The name meant nothing to me, but clearly he'd meant something to Sarah. My phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call, from Sarah's number. I answered immediately. "Sarah." "Tom?" Her voice. Unmistakably her voice, though it sounded thin and scared. "I'm so sorry. Where are you? What the hell is happening?" "I can't tell you where I am, not yet. It's not safe, but I need you to listen very carefully. That body in the morgue, it's not me. It's a woman named Jennifer Holmes. She looked enough like me that when they showed you just her face, you believed it was me. You let me believe you were dead? Do you have any idea what the last 4 days have been like?" "I know, and I'm sorry. But Tom, they're trying to kill me. If everyone thinks I'm already dead, they'll stop looking. I can figure out what to do next." "Who's trying to kill you? This Richard Blackwood?" A pause. "You found the envelope." "I found a lot more than that. $3 million, Sarah. Where did that money come from?" Another pause, longer. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "I stole it." "You what?" "I stole it from Richard's clients. Over the course of 2 years, I skimmed money from accounts he managed. Small amounts at first, then bigger ones. He didn't notice for a long time. By the time he figured it out, I'd already moved it into offshore accounts." I couldn't breathe. This wasn't possible. This wasn't the woman I'd married. Sarah was a librarian. She spent her days recommending books to children and organizing summer reading programs. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't a criminal. "Why?" I finally managed. "Why would you do this?" "Because I was leaving you, Tom. I'd been planning it for 3 years. I wanted enough money to start over somewhere new, somewhere you'd never find me." The words hit me like physical blows. You were leaving me? Yes, I was going to disappear. But then Richard found out about the money and everything went wrong. He confronted me last Tuesday night. Said if I didn't give it all back, he'd go to the police. I told him I'd already moved it where he couldn't reach it. He got angry. We fought. He tried to strangle me. I remembered Tuesday night. I'd been at a conference in Milwaukee, not due home until Wednesday morning. Sarah had been alone in the house. What happened? I asked. I got away. Barely. Ran to my car and drove. He chased me. I was driving too fast. Not paying attention. Lost control on that curve near mile marker 47. The car rolled. When I came to, I was in the ditch, bleeding. My car was totaled. And then what? Then I saw an opportunity. There was another car in the ditch. Must have crashed right before me. The driver was dead. A woman. Alone. About my age and build. I was hurt, but not badly. And I realized, if everyone thought I died in that crash, Richard would stop hunting me, so I switched places with her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You left a dead woman in your car and just walked away? I didn't kill her, Tom. She was already dead when I found her. I just took advantage of the situation. That's insane. Sarah, that's depraved. I was scared. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just knew I needed to get away. And you let me identify a stranger's body. You let me plan a funeral. You let Emily grieve. I'm sorry. I know it was wrong, but I needed time to figure out what to do. And I needed Richard to think I was dead. Well, congratulations. Everyone thinks you're dead, including your daughter, who's devastated. I'll make it right with Emily, eventually, but first I need your help. My help? Why would I help you? You've been lying to me for years, stealing money, planning to leave me, having an affair. The affair was part of the plan, she interrupted. Richard was the wealth manager. I needed to get close to him to access his systems. I never cared about him. It was always just about the money. That doesn't make it better, Sarah. I know I've hurt you, but Tom, please, I'm in danger. Richard knows I'm alive. That body in the morgue, they'll figure out soon enough that it's not me. When they do, Richard will come looking. I need to get that money and disappear for real, and I can't do it alone. Why should I help you? Why should I do anything except call the police right now? Because half that money is yours. Community property, remember. We're still married. Half of everything I took belongs to you. Help me, and you'll walk away with $1.5 million. Enough to start over. Enough to never worry about money again. I stood up, pacing the guest bedroom with the phone pressed to my ear. My whole world had collapsed in the span of 20 minutes. Everything I thought I knew about my wife, my marriage, my life, all of it was a lie. I need to think, I said. Don't think too long. Richard is dangerous. If he finds me before I can move that money, we'll both end up dead. She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal, and tried to figure out what to do next. I didn't go back to the funeral. Couldn't face the mourners, couldn't stand there beside an empty casket and pretend to grieve. Instead, I stayed in the guest bedroom, going through every piece of paper in that envelope. The bank statement showed systematic transfers over 24 months. Sarah had been meticulous, moving money in amounts small enough not to trigger immediate attention. $15,000 here, $23,000 there. By the time Richard Blackwood noticed, she'd already moved nearly $3.2 million into accounts he couldn't access. The affair had started around the same time. The earliest photos were dated 2 years ago. Innocent lunches, coffee meetings. Over time, they became more intimate. By 6 months ago, they were clearly sleeping together. I found hotel receipts, dinner receipts, even a receipt for jewelry I'd never seen Sarah wear. My phone rang. My mother this time. Tom, where are you? The service ended 20 minutes ago. Everyone's asking. I'm home. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I understand. It's overwhelming. Do you want me to come over? No, I need some time alone. Okay, sweetheart. Call if you need anything. After she hung up, I continued my investigation. Among the papers was a burner phone, one of those cheap prepaid cells you buy at convenience stores. I powered it on. It had only 2 numbers in the contacts, one labeled R and another labeled J. I tried R first. It rang 4 times, then a man answered. Sarah? This is her husband, I said. Would you be Richard Blackwood? A long silence. Then, where is she? That's what I'd like to know. She's apparently not in her casket. Mr. Bennett, Tom, we should meet. Should we? I think it would be mutually beneficial. I have information you need, and you have something I need. Access to your wife. I don't know where she is. But she contacted you. I'm sure of it. She wouldn't stage her passing without eventually reaching out to you. She needs your help to access those accounts. He wasn't wrong. What do you want from me? Meet me tonight, 8 o'clock. There's a diner on Route 9 called Mickey's. You know it? I did. It was a run-down place that served truckers and locals. Open 24 hours, neutral ground. I'll be there. Come alone. And Tom? Don't trust anything your wife tells you. She's a very accomplished liar. He hung up. I sat on the bed, thinking. Sarah wanted my help getting the money. Richard wanted me to help find Sarah. Both of them thought I was stupid enough to be manipulated. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was smart enough to play both sides and walk away with everything. I called the second number in the burner phone, the one labeled J. A woman answered. Hello? Who is this? Who's asking? Tom Bennett, Sarah's husband. A sharp intake of breath. Oh my God. I heard about Sarah. I'm so sorry. Who are you? Jessica Winters. I work at the library with Sarah. We're friends. Close friends? Yes. We've known each other for 5 years. Did you know what she was planning? Another pause. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Your number is in her secret phone. You know something. A long silence. Then, can we meet? Not over the phone. Mickey's Diner on Route 9, 9 o'clock tonight. I'll be there. I hung up and checked my watch. It was now 4 p.m. The burial would be finishing up at the cemetery. In a few hours, people would gather at my mother-in-law's house for the reception. I should be there, playing the grieving widower, accepting condolences. Instead, I was about to meet my dead wife's lover and her accomplice. I spent the next few hours going through Sarah's things more carefully. In her dresser, I found a passport I didn't recognize. Same photo, different name, Julia Morrison. In her nightstand, tucked behind old birthday cards, I found a key that looked like it belonged to a safe deposit box. My wife had been planning this for a long time, every detail calculated, every contingency considered, except she'd underestimated Richard Blackwood's patience and overestimated her ability to disappear, and now she needed me to fix her mistakes. At 7:30, I left the house and drove to Mickey's Diner. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across Route 9. The diner sat alone on a stretch of highway, surrounded by empty farmland. Through the windows, I could see maybe 6 customers scattered across the booths. I parked and went inside. The place smelled like coffee and old grease. A tired waitress glanced up from behind the counter, then went back to refilling salt shakers. I took a booth in the back corner where I could watch the door. Ordered coffee I didn't drink. Waited. At exactly 8 o'clock, a man walked in. 50, gray hair, expensive suit. The same man from the photos with Sarah. Richard Blackwood looked like money, like success, like someone who'd never had to struggle for anything in his life. He spotted me and walked over, slid into the booth across from me without asking permission. Tom Bennett. I'd say it's nice to meet you, but given the circumstances... Where's my wife? Direct. I like that. Truth is, I don't know. That's why I need your help. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. Richard signaled the waitress for coffee. Once she'd poured and left, he leaned back and studied me. How much has Sarah told you? Enough. The affair, the stolen money, her plan to disappear. Did she mention that the money wasn't just from my clients? Some of it was mine. Personal accounts that she raided. Nearly $1 million of my own money, gone. She said she only took from clients. She lied. Sarah is very good at lying. It's one of her talents. He sipped his coffee. We were together for 18 months. I thought it was real. I thought she cared about me. Then I discovered she'd been systematically robbing me and my clients the entire time. When I confronted her, she laughed in my face. So you tried to kill her. I tried to scare her, to make her understand the seriousness of what she'd done. Things got out of hand, we fought, she ran, I followed. And then she crashed her car and decided to play dead. Exactly. Clever, really. Except now she needs help accessing those accounts. That's where you come in. Why would I help either of you? Because, Tom, you have the most to gain here. Sarah stole that money planning to leave you. She was going to disappear and let you think she ran off or died. You'd have been left with nothing. No wife, no explanation, no money. But now you have leverage. You know she's alive. You know where the money is. You can negotiate. Negotiate what? Your cut. Make her give you half or all of it. She can't access those accounts without you. You're still her husband. You have legal rights. Use them. I stared at him across the table. And what do you get out of this? My money back. That's all I want. The $1 million she took from me personally. She can keep the rest. You can keep the rest. I just want what's mine. How do I know you won't kill both of us once you have the money? Because I'm a businessman, Tom, not a murderer. What happened with Sarah was an accident, a moment of anger. I regret it. But I'm a practical man. All I care about is recovering my loss. The waitress approached again. Richard ordered a sandwich. I waved her away. I need time to think about this, I said. Don't think too long. Once people realize that body in the morgue isn't Sarah, the police will start asking questions. Questions neither of us want to answer. He stood up, dropped a 50 on the table. Call me when you've decided. I have a feeling Sarah will reach out to you soon. When she does, remember, she's the one who lied to you for 3 years. She's the one who stole. She's the one who was ready to abandon you without a word. Don't let her manipulate you again. He left. I sat alone in the booth, Richard's words echoing in my head. He was right about Sarah. She'd betrayed me in every possible way, but trusting Richard felt equally dangerous. At 9 o'clock, Jessica Winters walked in. She was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with dark curly hair and nervous eyes. She spotted me and hurried over. Mr. Bennett? Call me Tom. Sit down. She slid into the booth, clutching her purse like a lifeline. I still can't believe Sarah's gone. We were just talking last week about the new fall book display. She's not gone. Jessica went pale. What? I pulled out my phone and showed her the text messages. She's alive, and I'm guessing you know more about it than you've let on. She stared at the screen, mouth open. I don't understand. The accident was staged. She switched places with another victim. Let everyone think she died. And now she's hiding, trying to figure out how to get the money she stole and disappear for real. Money? What money? Don't play dumb. Your number is in her secret phone. You know what she was doing. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I swear to God, I don't know about any money. Sarah asked me for help with something, but she never said what. She just asked if she could use my address for some mail deliveries. I said yes because she's my friend. But I never asked questions. I never knew. She broke off, crying. I believed her. She was either an incredible actress or genuinely in the dark about Sarah's plan. What mail deliveries? I asked. Bank statements, I think. They came once a month. She'd pick them up from my place, and I never looked at them. She said it was private financial stuff you didn't know about. I thought maybe she was putting away money for Emily's college or something. I never imagined... Did she ever mention Richard Blackwood? The name sounds familiar. Maybe she mentioned him once or twice, but I never met him. Jessica wasn't going to be useful. She was just a pawn Sarah had used for convenience. I stood up. If Sarah contacts you, call me immediately. I wrote my number on a napkin and slid it across the table. And Jessica, don't mention to anyone that we talked. She nodded, still crying. I left the diner and sat in my car, trying to make sense of everything. Sarah was alive. Richard wanted his money. Jessica was clueless, and I was stuck in the middle of a mess I didn't create. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah. Tomorrow night, midnight, the old factory on Mill Street. Come alone. I'll tell you everything and give you what you want. But Tom, please don't betray me. I'm your wife. That has to count for something. I stared at the message. My wife. The woman who'd lied to me for years, stolen millions, planned to abandon me. And now she wanted my loyalty. I laughed bitterly and typed back, I'll be there. Then I called Richard Blackwood. He answered immediately. Well? I'm meeting her tomorrow night, midnight. Old factory on Mill Street. Good, I'll be there. No, you stay away. If she sees you, she'll run. Let me handle this. And then what? Then I get you your money. Give me 48 hours. He was silent for a moment. 48 hours. But Tom, if you try to double-cross me, you'll regret it. Same to you. I hung up and drove home, already planning my next move. I spent the next day putting pieces together. First, I went to the bank where Sarah had the safe deposit box. The key I'd found fit perfectly. Inside was cash, $50,000 in $100 bills, along with more documents, account numbers, passwords, instructions for accessing offshore accounts, everything I needed to take the money and run. Next, I visited our lawyer, Theodore Maxwell. He'd handled our wills when we got married. I needed to know what happened to Sarah's estate if she was legally dead. Tom, I'm so glad you came in, Theodore said, shaking my hand. I've been meaning to call. We need to discuss Sarah's will. What about it? Well, as her husband, you're the primary beneficiary. But there are complications given the circumstances of her passing. Life insurance won't pay out for at least 6 months pending investigation. And if there's any question about the accident... What kind of question? Standard procedure. Any sudden passing gets reviewed. The insurance company will want to rule out suicide, intoxication, mechanical failure. It's just protocol. And if they determine it wasn't an accident, then they won't pay. But Tom, there's no reason to think. What if the body in the morgue isn't Sarah? Theodore blinked. I'm sorry, what? Hypothetically. What if someone else died in that crash and Sarah is alive somewhere? That's quite a hypothetical. If Sarah were alive and had faked her passing, there would be serious criminal implications. Insurance fraud, filing false reports, possibly even murder if she was involved in the other victim's passing. But what happens to the money? The accounts, the house, everything in her name? If she's alive? Nothing. She'd still own it all. Unless you divorced her, in which case assets would be divided according to state law. I thanked Theodore and left. So Sarah still controlled everything. Even if I wanted to take the money and run, I'd need her cooperation, or her passing for real this time. That afternoon, I received a call from Detective Harrison. Tom, we have a situation. The medical examiner ran some routine tests on your wife's body. There are inconsistencies. My heart rate spiked. What kind of inconsistencies? The fingerprints don't match any records for Sarah Bennett. We're running them through the database now, but it's looking like the victim might not be who we thought. That's impossible. I identified her myself. I know, but you only saw her face, and the trauma was significant. It's possible you made a mistake in your grief. We're going to need to exhume the body and run more extensive tests, dental records, DNA. I'm sorry to put you through this, Tom, but we need to be certain. I understand. There's something else. The other car involved in the accident. We found it earlier today in a ravine about a mile from the crash site. There was a driver inside, female, late 30s. She'd been there for at least 4 days, died on impact. Who was she? Jennifer Holmes. Lived in Springdale. She was driving home from her shift at the hospital. Best we can figure, she crashed first, then your wife's car crashed nearby. But now we're not sure which body is which, or if either of them is your wife. What do you need from me? Come down to the station tomorrow. We need to take a DNA sample. And Tom, if you know anything at all about what really happened that night, now's the time to tell me. I don't know anything, Detective. I was in Milwaukee when the accident happened. Right. Okay. Come by tomorrow. We'll figure this out. After he hung up, I sat in my car outside the lawyer's office and laughed. The police were finally catching on. Soon everyone would know the truth. And when they did, Sarah's carefully constructed escape plan would fall apart, unless I helped her first. At 11 p.m., I drove to the old factory on Mill Street. It was an abandoned textile mill that had been closed for 20 years. The building was enormous. 3 stories of broken windows and rusted equipment. Kids sometimes broke in to party or spray paint graffiti. Otherwise, it sat empty, a monument to industrial decline. I parked a block away and walked toward the building. The street was deserted. No lights except a distant street lamp that flickered weakly. The factory's main entrance was chained shut, but a side door hung open. I slipped inside and found myself in a vast dark space. Moonlight filtered through broken windows, casting strange shadows on old machinery. Tom? Sarah's voice coming from somewhere above me. I looked up and saw her silhouette on the second-floor catwalk. I'm here, I called back. Come up. The stairs are to your right. I climbed the metal stairs, each step echoing in the emptiness. At the top, I found Sarah waiting. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, a bruise yellowing on her jaw. This was not the polished woman I'd married. This was someone on the run, desperate and scared. Thank you for coming, she said. Did I have a choice? You always have a choice, Tom. You could have gone to the police, but you didn't. Not yet. She smiled sadly. Always so practical. That's what I loved about you. You think things through. Don't talk about love. You lost that right. Fair enough. She moved to a broken window, looking out at the night. I know you hate me. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to understand. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to survive. Survive what? Our marriage wasn't a prison. Wasn't it? Tom, I've been suffocating for years. The same routine, the same conversations, the same life day after day. I felt invisible, like I was just going through motions, waiting to die. I needed something more. So you stole $3 million and faked your passing? I found an opportunity and took it. Richard was arrogant, careless. He trusted me with access to accounts he shouldn't have. I started small, just testing. Then I realized I could take enough to change my life completely, start over somewhere new, be someone else. And me? Emily? We were just collateral damage? Emily is grown. She doesn't need me anymore. And you... She turned to face me. You're a good man, Tom. Decent, reliable. But I don't love you. Haven't for years. I was going to leave eventually. The money just accelerated the timeline. The words should have hurt. Maybe they did. But mostly, I felt nothing. This stranger with my wife's face was meaningless to me now. The police know, I said. They figured out the body isn't you. They're running DNA tests. In a few days, everyone will know you're alive. Then what's your plan? She went pale. How long do we have? Maybe a week, maybe less. Then we need to move now. Tonight. I'll give you the account information. You transfer the money to new accounts in both our names. We split it 50-50. Then I disappear and you tell the police I threatened you, forced you to help me. You'll be seen as a victim. You keep your half of the money and no one ever knows you were involved. And Richard? What about him? He knows you're alive. He's looking for you. He wants his $1 million back. She laughed bitterly. Richard can go to hell. He tried to kill me. He doesn't get to play victim now. He'll come after both of us if we take all the money. Let him try. By the time he figures out where we moved it, we'll be gone. You to wherever you want. Me to a country with no extradition treaty. I pretended to consider it. How do I access the accounts? She pulled out a piece of paper with account numbers and passwords. Everything you need is here, but Tom, you have to do this tonight. Transfer it all to the new accounts I set up. Then wire my half to this routing number. She wrote down more information. Once I confirm the money arrived, I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. And if I don't? Her expression hardened. Then I'll tell the police you helped me fake my passing, that you were in on it from the beginning. You identified that woman's body knowing it wasn't me. You're complicit in everything. If I go down, you go down with me. There it was, the real Sarah. Not the scared victim, but the calculating criminal who'd been playing me from the start. Okay, I said. I'll do it. But I need 24 hours to make the transfers look legitimate. If I move too much money too fast, it'll trigger alerts. You have until tomorrow night, midnight. Then I'm gone, whether the money's moved or not. I'll have it done. She nodded and turned to leave. Then she paused. Tom, I really am sorry. For what it's worth, you deserved better than me. Yes, I did. She disappeared down the stairs, and I heard her footsteps echoing away. I waited 5 minutes to make sure she was gone, then pulled out my phone and called Richard Blackwood. Did you meet with her? Yes, I have the account information. I'm going to transfer everything to a new account and split it between us. You get your $1 million. I get the rest. What about Sarah? Sarah's a problem that will solve itself. Once the police confirm she's alive and wanted for fraud and insurance scams, she'll spend the rest of her life running. She won't have time to worry about money. Good. I want my transfer by tomorrow night. You'll have it. I hung up and smiled in the darkness. Both of them thought they were playing me. Both of them thought I was the weak link, the patsy they could manipulate. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The next morning, I went to the police station. Detective Harrison was waiting with a DNA kit. This will just take a minute, he said, swabbing the inside of my cheek. We'll compare it to the body and know for certain whether it's Sarah. How long will that take? Labs backed up. Maybe 3 days. Detective, I need to tell you something. I don't think that body is my wife. He set down the swab kit. Why not? Because I've been getting text messages from her phone, and yesterday I met her. Harrison's expression didn't change. Tell me everything. I laid it all out. The messages, the hidden money, the affair with Richard Blackwood, the staged passing. The only thing I left out was my plan to take the money myself. As far as Harrison knew, I was a confused husband trying to do the right thing. When I finished, Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Do you still have these messages? I showed him my phone. He photographed each message. And you met her last night at the factory? Yes. She wants me to help her transfer the stolen money. Gave me account information and passwords. Do you have that information? I hesitated. This was the critical moment. If I gave Harrison everything, I'd lose my chance at the money. But if I held back and got caught, I'd go to prison. She has it, I lied. She wouldn't give me the actual account numbers. Just told me she'd walk me through the transfers when the time came. When's that supposed to happen? Tonight, midnight. She's supposed to call me with instructions. Harrison stood up. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to answer that call. You're going to agree to help her, and we're going to trace her location and pick her up. She'll know if I bring police. She's paranoid. We'll be careful. Trust me, Tom. We do this kind of thing all the time. She won't see us coming. I agreed to cooperate. Harrison set me up with a wire and explained the protocol. At midnight, I'd take her call. I'd keep her talking as long as possible while they traced the signal. Then they'd move in and arrest her. Simple, clean, legal. Except I had no intention of letting it play out that way. I left the station wearing the wire Harrison had given me, drove home and waited. At 3 p.m., I received a call from Richard Blackwood. "We need to meet, now. Something's wrong with the accounts." "What do you mean?" "Just meet me, same diner, 1 hour." He hung up. I drove to Mickey's diner, still wearing the wire. If Harrison was listening, he'd hear everything. But I was counting on him not monitoring me until tonight. Richard was already there, sitting in the same booth as before. His face was red, agitated. "The accounts are frozen," he said as soon as I sat down. "All of them. Someone reported them as stolen funds. The banks have locked everything pending investigation." "When did this happen?" "This morning," which means Sarah must have panicked and reported them herself, or someone else figured out what she did and alerted the authorities. "So the money's gone?" "Not gone, frozen, which means we need to get to it before the banks turn everything over to law enforcement. That could take weeks." "How do we access frozen accounts?" "We don't, but Sarah can. She has the original documentation, the account agreements, everything. If she goes to the banks in person with the right identification, she can authorize transfers before the freeze becomes permanent." "And you think she'll just do that? Help us steal money that's now flagged as stolen?" "She'll do it if the alternative is prison. Tom, listen to me. The police are going to figure out she's alive any day now. Once they do, every law enforcement agency in the country will be looking for her. Her only chance is to grab whatever money she can and disappear immediately. Today, right now. What do you want from me?" "I want you to call her. Tell her the accounts are frozen. Tell her we need to move the money today, right now, before it's too late. Get her to meet us at the bank." "And then?" "Then we make the transfers. She gets a cut. You get a cut. I get my million. Everyone wins. Except the bank." He smiled coldly. "The bank has insurance. They'll survive." I thought about it. With the accounts frozen, my original plan wouldn't work. I couldn't quietly transfer the money to accounts I controlled. But if Sarah authorized the transfers in person, I could potentially redirect them at the last second. "Okay, I'll call her. But Richard, if you're lying to me, if this is some kind of setup..." "It's not. I want my money, that's all. Help me get it, and we're done." I pulled out my phone and called Sarah's number. She answered on the first ring. "Tom?" "We have a problem. The accounts are frozen." A sharp intake of breath. "What? How?" "I don't know. Maybe the banks flagged the transactions. Maybe someone reported them. It doesn't matter. What matters is we need to move that money today or we lose it. I can't go to a bank. The police might be watching for me. They don't know you're alive yet. Not officially. You've got a small window. We need to use it. Tom, I'm scared. I know. But this is our only chance. Meet me at First National Bank downtown, 2 o'clock. Bring your ID and all the account documentation. We'll do the transfers in person." "What about Richard?" "What about him?" "He'll be looking for me. If he sees me at the bank..." "He won't. I'll make sure of it. Just trust me." A long pause. "Okay, 2 o'clock. But Tom, if this is a trap, if you're working with Richard or the police, it's not a trap. It's survival, for both of us." She hung up. Richard was smiling. "Good. I'll meet you at the bank." "No, you stay away. If she sees you, she'll bolt. Let me handle this." "And trust you to give me my cut?" "I don't think so." "You want your money or not?" "This only works if she thinks it's just me. You'll get your million. I'll make sure of it." He studied me for a long moment. "Fine. But Tom, if you try to double-cross me..." "You'll kill me. I know. You've mentioned that before. Relax. You'll get your money." I left the diner and drove home, took off the police wire and smashed it with a hammer. Whatever happened at that bank, I didn't want law enforcement listening in. At 1:30, I drove downtown to First National Bank. It was a massive stone building that looked more like a courthouse than a bank. Inside was all marble and brass, built to project stability and trustworthiness. I approached a bank officer and explained I needed to make several large transfers from accounts that were currently under review. She made a phone call, consulted with someone, then led me to a private office. "Our manager will be with you shortly. These transfers will require additional documentation and approval given the amounts involved." At 5 minutes to 2, Sarah walked in. She looked different, hair dyed darker, wearing glasses and conservative clothes that made her look like a businesswoman. If I hadn't known to look for her, I might not have recognized her. She saw me and relaxed slightly. "Tom." "Sarah, you have everything?" She patted her purse. "All the documents. Let's do this quickly." The bank manager arrived, a humorless man in his 50s named Mr. Patterson. He reviewed Sarah's documentation, confirmed her identity, and pulled up the accounts on his computer. "These accounts have been flagged," he said. "There's a hold pending investigation into the source of the funds." "I understand," Sarah said smoothly. "That's why we're here. We'd like to transfer everything to different accounts to simplify the situation. The funds are legitimate. There was a misunderstanding with the original institutions. I'll need additional verification. Social security numbers, tax returns, proof of income. We have everything." Sarah pulled out folders from her purse. I had no idea she'd been this prepared. She'd anticipated every objection, every requirement. Within 20 minutes, Patterson was typing transfer instructions into his computer. "Where would you like these funds transferred?" he asked. Sarah gave him account numbers. Patterson typed them in. "This will move everything, $3.2 million, to these new accounts. Is that correct?" "Yes," Sarah said. "I'll need both of your signatures as account holders." We signed. Patterson initiated the transfers. "This will take several hours to process. The funds should be available in the new accounts by end of business today." We thanked him and left. Once outside, Sarah grabbed my arm. "We did it. Oh my God, we actually did it." "Not yet. The money won't be available for hours. And once it is, we need to move it again, to accounts Richard doesn't know about." "You're right. Okay, let me make some calls. I'll set up new accounts, and tonight we'll move everything again. Then we split it and go our separate ways." "Sounds good." She kissed my cheek. "Thank you, Tom. I know I don't deserve your help, but thank you." She left. I watched her disappear into the afternoon crowd, then pulled out my phone and called Richard Blackwood. "It's done. The money's being transferred now." "To where?" "Accounts Sarah set up. But tonight we're moving it again, to accounts she doesn't know about. Give me your account information, and I'll make sure your million gets there." "What's to stop you from taking everything?" "Nothing, except I'm not like Sarah. I don't steal. I just want what's fair." He gave me his account information. I wrote it down carefully. "You'll have your money by tomorrow morning," I said. "I'd better." I hung up and allowed myself a smile. Everything was falling into place. By tomorrow, I'd have control of all the money. Sarah would be in custody, Richard would get his million to keep him quiet, and I'd walk away with nearly $2 million that no one could trace. All I had to do was wait for Sarah to make her final mistake. At 11 p.m., Sarah called me. "The transfers went through. The money's in the new accounts. Meet me at the factory again. Midnight. I'll give you the new account information, and we'll split everything. Then I'm gone. I'll be there." I drove to the factory, but this time I arrived early, parked 2 blocks away, and approached on foot. The building was dark and silent. I slipped in through the side door and climbed to the second floor, then hid behind an old piece of machinery where I could see the catwalk. At midnight, Sarah arrived. She moved cautiously, checking corners, making sure she was alone. Then she pulled out her phone and called me. "Tom? Where are you? I'm at the factory. I'm running late. Give me 5 minutes. Hurry. I want to get this done and get out of here." I hung up and waited. A minute later, I heard footsteps on the metal stairs. Richard Blackwood appeared, moving slowly, looking around. Sarah saw him and froze. "Richard, what are you doing here?" "Same thing you are, getting my money." "I told Tom not to tell you. Tom works for me now. You didn't really think he'd help you after what you did to him?" "Tom's not that vindictive." "Everyone's vindictive when they're betrayed." Richard moved closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me the account information for those new accounts. All of it. Then you're going to transfer every dollar to accounts I control, and then... Then what? You kill me? No. Then you disappear, and I never see you again. I don't care where you go or what you do. I just want my money back. It's not just your money. Most of it came from your clients. Who got insurance payouts when they reported the losses? So really, I'm the only one who lost anything, and I want it back." Sarah was backing toward the stairs. "I'm not giving you anything." Richard pulled out a gun, a small revolver that looked almost toy-like in his hand. "I really hoped it wouldn't come to this, but you're not leaving me any choice." "You're going to shoot me? Here? Where anyone could hear?" "This building's been abandoned for years. No one comes here, and by the time someone finds your body, I'll be long gone with my money." He raised the gun. Sarah screamed, and I stepped out from my hiding place. "Put the gun down, Richard." He spun around, surprised. "Tom, I told you to stay away. I couldn't miss this. You two deserve each other. This doesn't concern you anymore. I gave you a chance to walk away with your cut. If you interfere now..." "You'll what? Shoot me too?" I pulled out my own phone and held it up. I've been recording this whole conversation. Everything you just said. You threaten her, you threaten me, and I send this recording straight to the police. Richard's face went red. You're bluffing. Try me. Sarah used his distraction to run. She bolted for the stairs, heels clattering on metal. Richard turned to follow her, and I tackled him. We hit the ground hard, his gun skittering across the floor. We fought, punching, grappling, rolling across the dirty concrete. Richard was stronger than he looked. He got on top of me, hands around my throat, squeezing. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Grabbed blindly for anything I could use as a weapon. My hand found the gun. I swung it up and brought it down hard against Richard's temple. He slumped sideways, groaning. I shoved him off and stood up, gasping for air. Sarah was long gone. I could hear a car engine starting outside, then tires squealing as she drove away. Richard was dazed but conscious. I kept the gun pointed at him. Don't move. You won't shoot me, he mumbled. You're not a killer. No, but I will call the police, and I'll give them this recording of you threatening to murder Sarah. That's attempted homicide. You'll go to prison for years. Unless you want something else. Smart man, here's the deal. You transfer your $1 million to this account. I gave him the account number I'd set up yesterday. Then you get on a plane and leave the country, go somewhere with no extradition, and you never come back. Because if I ever see you again, this recording goes to the police. What about the rest of the money? Not your problem anymore. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and made the transfer. I watched over his shoulder as the confirmation went through. $1 million now sat in an account only I could access. It's done, he said. Now what? Now you leave? And Richard? If you try to come after me or Sarah, I'll destroy you. Not just the recording. I'll tell your clients what you did. I'll tell everyone. You'll be ruined. He left without another word. I stood alone in the factory, holding a gun I didn't want and listening to Sarah's car disappear into the night. Then I pulled out my phone and called Detective Harrison. Detective, it's Tom Bennett. I know where Sarah is. Where? I don't know her exact location right now, but I know where she'll be tomorrow morning. She's going to try to access accounts at Midwest Security Bank downtown, 9 a.m. If you want to arrest her, that's where you'll find her. How do you know this? Because I helped set up the accounts, and I know she won't be able to resist going in person to check on the money. Tom, if you've been helping her, I was gathering evidence. Everything I did was to get proof of her crimes. I'll give you all of it. But you need to be at that bank tomorrow morning. Dante will be there? I hung up and allowed myself to smile. Sarah thought she'd outsmarted everyone, thought she was going to disappear with millions, but tomorrow morning, when she walked into that bank, she'd find police waiting. She'd be arrested, charged with fraud and staging her own passing and a dozen other crimes. She'd spend years in prison. And I'd have $2 million sitting in accounts no one knew existed. Money from Richard's transfer and from the transfers I'd made earlier using the account information Sarah gave me. Money I'd forgotten to mention to the police. I'd mourned a wife who wasn't dead. I'd been betrayed by the woman I'd loved for 12 years. I'd been manipulated, lied to, used. But in the end, I'd won. Chapter 7. Expanded. The next morning, Detective Harrison called before the sun had fully climbed. His voice was flat, professional, the way people sound when they have to tell someone the worst of what they already know. We arrested Sarah at the bank, just like you said. She's being charged with fraud, faking her passing, theft, insurance fraud, and about 6 other counts. This is big. She's looking at serious time. Good, I said, and the word felt thin in my mouth. It wasn't joy I felt exactly. It was finality. The last ugly chapter of something that had once been ordinary life. There's one problem, Harrison went on. She's claiming you were involved. Says you identified that body knowing it wasn't her, that you helped move the money. I let the phone sit in my hand a second, surprised by how calm I sounded, even as something colder uncoiled in my chest. That's ridiculous. I went to you as soon as I figured out what she'd done. I came to you to stop it. I know, the detective said, and the other evidence supports your story. But, Tom, I have to ask, did you financially benefit from any of this? No, I lied before I knew I would. Then I stopped, shook my head, and corrected myself. No, Sarah stole that money. I didn't get a dime. Harrison's pause was brief but loaded. What about the transfers yesterday? First National? I was there, tracking where she'd hidden funds, I said. I was trying to find proof so you could act. I didn't touch anything. All right, we'll need a full statement, but at this point you look like a victim, not a suspect. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table and watched the sunlight move across the floorboards. The house felt too big and echoing, as if every wall could remember every argument, every small kindness, every lie. I felt like a man who had finally closed a file and realized the ink was still wet. I did what I had to do next, and it was the part of the morning that felt most like stepping over a line I could never unstep from. I moved the money. Not because I wanted to hide it forever, only because I could not trust that the world would stay as narrow and predictable as it had been for the past 20 years. I transferred the $2 million through a web of accounts, breaking it up, moving shards of it into institutions and trusts where it would sit, anonymous and quiet. I did not call anyone for help. I did not log it loudly. I left no trail of breadcrumbs that might lead back to me. I thought of the detective's question, did I benefit? And the enormity of my answer. Illegally or not, I thought of the money as a buffer, a way to stop the next disaster, to pay for Emily's education if she ever needed it, to patch roofs and pay doctors, and, if necessary, buy time. Morally tangled, yes, but to me, necessary. Richard had already vanished. The office was locked, lines dead. He'd taken his cut, smart man, quick with a suitcase, and disappeared to somewhere the wind could not easily follow. Sarah was in custody, and their lawyer was spinning the story in the usual direction. Blame the powerful, minimize her culpability. He argued coercion, manipulation by Richard. The jury would have to decide which version of the truth to believe. Outside the small courthouse where the arraignment took place, cameras mumbled and neighbors asked questions I barely heard. I played the part society assigned me, the bereaved husband, the wounded man who had been betrayed at the core. People hugged me. Cousins I hadn't seen in years came by with casseroles. The charity of strangers felt like a balm and a mirror. They saw my sorrow and gave it meaning. None of them suspected the quiet ledger that sat in an account no one knew I controlled. 3 months later, I sold the house. Letting go of the porch that had once been the center of our life was a kind of sacrament. I moved to another state under a different rental agreement. New job, new routine. I kept my head down and accepted the small, ordinary things. Gas stations at dawn, the slow politeness of coworkers, the hum of fluorescent lights. I lived modestly, made unremarkable meals, paid my bills on time. The $2 million kept its distance, accruing interest in small, respectable increments. I treated it like a patient animal I fed at dawn. Emily took it the hardest. Her mother's betrayal and public disgrace had carved a hollow out of her that I could not fill. She stopped calling as often. When we did talk, our conversations were cautious. She would ask about the funeral, about police reports, about school, but we rarely touched the thing that had altered our family. Maybe that would come later. Maybe forgiveness lives on a slow train schedule. For now, we existed in fragments. Text messages, forced smiles at family gatherings, a birthday card left on the mantel. Every night I dreamed of 2 versions of Sarah. One, the woman I had once loved, laugh lines at her eyes, the habit of humming when she cooked. The other, the architect of our ruin, cold, precise, capable of setting events in motion and watching others fall like dominoes. In daylight, the edges blurred. In the small hours, it all felt sharper. The betrayal, the theft, the fact I had taken part, however reluctantly, in hiding the proceeds from the chaos she had made. When the trial finally began, the courtrooms were full. Journalists took notes like they were chiseling history into stone. Sarah sat in a plain suit, but looked like someone used to glamour and theater. She insisted on a narrative, coerced by Richard, desperate, a mistake, and sometimes her performance almost slipped into plausibility. But the records told a different tale. Forged signatures, secret accounts, payments to shell companies. The jury listened. The verdict, when it came, was harsh. She was sentenced to more than a decade. When they read the sentence, I felt a collision of things. Relief, a hollow recrimination, and an odd, small grief for what she had once been. The tragic arc had been closed, but it left a scar that would never quite heal. People told me justice had been served. They were right in the narrow sense and wrong in the wider one. Justice for stolen money and broken trust had been achieved, but the moral ledger was not so neat. I had paid my own price in solitude and secrecy. The money had become both talisman and indictment. I had secured Emily's future at the cost of absolution. In the quiet evenings that followed, I would sit with a cup of coffee and allow myself to imagine a life that might have been different, a conversation that might have prevented her from scheming, a kindness that might have turned her away from a darker path. None of these hypothetical acts could be performed anymore. We were all actors in the consequences of choices already made. And yet, in the small hours, when the house was mine and the phone silent, I let myself think of the revenge I had carried out. Not a spectacle in public, but a precise, private correction. She had tried to make me the fool in her story. I had refused. I had taken what she had stolen and given it meaning of my own, shelter, security, a second chance. The funeral, the rituals, the public mourning, they had grown meaningless in light of what came after. The grief had been real, the sorrow authentic, but the final act had not been a dirge. It had been a settlement. In the end, revenge was tidy only in the stories you tell yourself to sleep. The real world retains its stains. I had the money, I had freedom, I had the knowledge that I had outmaneuvered a thief, and I had Emily, distant, wary, fragile, who might one day sit with me on my porch and ask me why I did what I did. If that day ever came, I told myself, I would try to be honest. For now, the plates remained in the sink, and the bills paid, and the account numbers continued to hum quietly, like a kept secret that had finally been tamed.